So here on the left, this is a unit circle, and this is related to trigonometry. Some of you may be feeling overwhelmed right now because of how confusing it looks, and there's just a lot of different coordinates, different angles, and you may not even know what's happening. Don't worry, because in this video, I'll be explaining specifically why the coordinates are like that and how it is related to trigonometry and the angles. So let's only focus in quadrant 1. Here, we see that there are 3 different angles. If you take a look closely, it is 60 degrees, 45 degrees, and 30 degrees. If you remember back from what we have learned in the beginning of trigonometry, you may know that these come from special right triangles, which are 45 degree triangle, which is 45 degree triangle where 2 sides are the same and the hypotenuse is square root 2. The other special right triangle is the 60 degree, 30 degree triangle. And the smallest side is 1. The second smallest side is square root 3, and the hypotenuse is 2. If I ask you, well, let's say I want to know the sine of 45 degrees. If I want to know the sine of 45 degrees, remember what we learned from the beginning. We learned that SOHCAHTOA is used so that I know what is over what for specifically sine, cosine, and tangent. While I'm asking for sine, so that means it is SO, which is opposite over hypotenuse. Now, I can choose either 45 degrees since they're both the same. So, opposite of 45 degrees is 1 over the hypotenuse, which is square root 2. And when we have our answer like this, when we have a square root in the denominator, we usually want to put it in the numerator, not in the denominator. So how we can do this is that we can times square root 2 over square root 2, which is the same as 1. And when I times that, I get square root 2 over 2, because square root 2 times square root 2 is just 2. Next, if I ask you for a cosine of 45 degrees, well, let's take a look at chi then. Chi is adjacent over hypotenuse. Let's say I choose this 45 degrees now. Well, adjacent is still 1. So 1 over hypotenuse, which is square root 2. Again, I don't want to leave my answer like that. So I times square root 2 over square root 2, and I get square root 2 over 2. As you can see, they're both the same. And if we take a look at the coordinates here, which one of these kind of represents these two numbers here? And as you can see, yes, it is a 45 degree. So that is one of them. Now, if let's say I want to focus on the 30 degree, then I have to focus on this triangle, which is the 60 degree, 30 degree triangle. I want to know sine of 30 degrees. Again, let's take a look at SO, which is opposite over hypotenuse, which is 1 over 2. Now I want to know cosine of 30 degrees, which is CA, which is adjacent over hypotenuse. And adjacent is square root 3. Hypotenuse is 2. And as you can see here, I have 2 numbers. And here you might be wondering, well, it includes square root 3 over 2, but it also includes 1 over 2. Here it includes square root 3 over 2, but it also includes 1 over 2. Well, which one do I know is correct then? Well, this is something where I introduce you the coordinates. So I have coordinates x and coordinate y. Now, as I said here, the coordinate here represents the x-axis. Here, the y represents the y-axis. And something that you have to remember is that the x-coordinate has to represent the cosine, and the y-coordinate has to represent the sine. So knowing these, I can say, okay, so this is sine. So that means sine is 1 over 2. And cosine of 30 degrees is square root 3 over 2. Well, then now let's take a look at the unit circle. Which one of these is the same as here? Well, this, see, it's correct because it is 30 degrees and we are focusing on 30 degrees. Last but not least, let's focus on 60 degrees. Again, I'm not going to focus on this because there's no 60 degrees. I'm going to focus in this triangle here because I have the 60 degree. If I ask you what is sine of 60 degrees, again I look at the saw, which is opposite over hypotenuse. Opposite is square root 3. Hypotenuse is 2. And what about the cosine of 60 degrees? Well, it's adjacent over hypotenuse. And adjacent of 60 degrees is 1 over the hypotenuse, which is 2. So here, again, let's take a look at the cosine and sine in a coordinate. I know that cosine is the x value. So let's take a look at the cosine here. Well, it's 1 over 2. So I put 1 over 2 in the x value. And sine of 60 degrees is square root 3 over 2. Then I put it in the y value. And here in the unit circle, let's see which of these represent this. Well, here it's exactly the same. And if you take a look at the angle, it is 60-degree triangle. It's 60 degrees. So as you can see, in the unit circle, you don't have to memorize everything. You can use special right triangles to do so. Of course, in the test, you would want to be a bit quicker than this. And you would really want to just snap and then try to remember these. Or you can just quickly draw them up and then just know, okay, sine of 30 degrees is immediately going to be 1 over 2, so on and so forth. Good luck.